Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So we can't FaceTime him.
Yeah. FaceTime. Hold on.
Well, I mean, hey, I mean, and I would hate to walk away, dog, without, addressing everything, bro. Like, I don't want, So I'm gonna speak for myself real quick. I kind of like I heard the video that you sent earlier and shit, right? And I'm gonna be honest with you as a man, right? Because I'm grown. I think that's a cheap way out, bro. You feel what I'm saying? I think that post carries so many consequences that you can't even fathom. You know what I'm saying? And I would hope that you being where you're at now and your business is where it's at, you would understand. And I'm personally gonna invite you to a few situations that I think that can open your mind to the seriousness of these things. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of funerals that you can attend with us. We got a lot of car washes that bury our people behind a lot of, hate. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that post needs to come down, brother. And we're not really asking you. And I know it sounds fucked up for me to come on your platform and demand something, but I'm demanding it for not myself, but for my people's well-being and also the black community. You feel what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, I think that the thing that you're not really considering is that if you're going to be a public figure and make, YouTube videos and do podcasts and all that kind of shit, and you're going to be out here using racial language against somebody, then you should expect it to be discussed and dissected on public platforms, So it's like, I don't understand what us deleting the post does when I can tell you 10 other outlets that already posted about it.
Yeah, well, you're the one of the biggest platforms out here, and you're saying when you're on YouTube, we got a platform, but when you got a video that is clearly edited from two other videos that's put together like that, Adam, you have gone through your own stuff through Twitter, you have gone through your own stuff saying certain comments, and what did you always say? It's out of context. So now I feel like, wait a minute, this is something that can really spill over to the streets. Now all of a sudden it's not out of context. Now all of a sudden we should just take it.
Well, okay, I do agree with you that the part of the video that makes it seem as if you're just using the N-word definitely is out of context, so I can agree with you on that part. But, I mean, in terms of you calling Tariq a coon over and over, I don't really think that was out of context.
See, the thing is you're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. AD, is it out of context?
We just talked about it, and it's out of context, Adam.
100%.
Because he called, he was responding, he was called a Mexicoon, and in return, he called him a ghetto coon.
And, it was okay. I mean, I'll tell you right now, real quick. The coon part means AD, Uncle Tom.
Yeah,
Uncle Tom. The ghetto part I said about Tariq was because Tariq acts like he's this gangster ghetto guy on the streets, always dividing brown and black. Yet he lives in one of the whitest cities in the San Fernando Valley, Chatsworth. That's why I say you over here trying to act like you a ghetto gangster fool, but you're really a ghetto coon. In other words, you perpetrating to be ghetto, and you're really an Uncle Tom trying to sell us out, and that's where it comes from. And I did a whole video on it.
Well, I mean, I get how you thought you were using it or how you were saying it, but I mean, you still said it, and it's still newsworthy when you're involved in a very public conversation about race. I think that somebody who's, and I don't hold it against you at all what you were coming out and saying about Tiger, but you're a public personality, and you were coming out and having a public conversation about race. I think if in the past you've called a black guy a ghetto coon repeatedly,
not a black guy.
Is that not newsworthy? To me, that's like insanely obviously newsworthy.
Okay, we're talking about Tariq Nasheed, who's a race baiter, right? And if you go and actually watch the video, you put a clip that's edited. That's a 5-10 second clip. I did the whole video is about maybe 7-8 minutes. So there's actually major context in there. It's like me getting the video where you're reading off the computer and you say the ER word and then just put it out there. Look, he's being racist. Or me get the tweets. Hey, look, he's talking about young girls. If that was you know it's completely out of context. So what you're doing here, you're steering the pot between brown and black, because I've gotten death threats. I've gotten all kind of stuff. And I can guarantee you, Adam, if something were to happen to me, it'd be all bad, homie. And you'd be the one that's responsible for this.
I don't think I'd be responsible. I think that the guy who was calling a black
man... That's the problem, though, Adam. Adam, listen.
Would probably be the one who was responsible.
Listen, Adam.
Listen, I do see your point about the N-word part of it. So I am willing to take the post down just to be diplomatic, and because I think that part in particular was taken out of context. But I also I just want you to consider like what the role of media is and what is considered newsworthy, because to me, it's obvious. It's not baiting a war. It's not like creating a race war. This is just blatant news. Like you should expect, like if people post stuff and say, "Oh, look, Adam was quoting a song and he said the N-word in the context of quoting a song." Don't mean to cut you off. Don't mean to cut you off, Adam.
But I literally had Adam on my show to discuss
I'm
him
not
saying
holding
that
it
too.
against anybody who posts about it.
I didn't hear what he said. What you
No,
said
no,
again?
no. I said even Adam, bro. You feel me? He said the N word before in the song, and
Right.
I had him come on my platform and talk about it and talk about the context of it, because once again, people were sitting there like Adam said nigga. They was taking, you know what I'm saying? Shit can be taken out of context.
Well, let me
So
say something real quick.
He ain't,
I
he
think,
ain't against just that.
Adam, hear me out real quick. Look, you're
First,
telling
the
us.
Ghetto Coon, all right?
Most
do it.
definitely.
The Ghetto Coon was a video that I made back to Tariq Nasheed, because Tariq Nasheed made a video saying the Mexicoon, and he was talking about
heard
myself, and because I made a video I was pissed off when the paleteros were getting attacked, and I was like, where are the brothers at, where this and that, and he took offense to that. And you know what Tariq Nasheed did? He's a race baiter, right? He's a pimp. So he started talking all this shit, talking shit about Mexicans, talking shit, just what he does, right? So I got home, and I made a video, and it's specifically there, it says Tariq the Ghetto Coon Nasheed. The reason people say Coon, I've always thought Coon was Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
All right, so that's
is.
off the bat. Some people say, "No, you're Uncle Tom." So one,
It's
I'm calling
betraying
him,
your race
I'm calling
for
him,
another
I'm
race.
calling him Uncle Tom. The ghetto part, and I've had this conversation with many brothers.
And I heard what you said.
Yeah,
And
and-
said he live in the whitest town. I don't know Tariq Nasheed.
yeah,
You feel me?
homie.
I ain't never
I don't
seen
even
his
know who that
content.
is.
No, but I'm saying you broke down before you said what you said. You said that you act like you down with the hood,
Yeah.
but you live in the whitest part of California.
He's doing like he's steering the pot, and he's talking all this shit about black power and fuck Mexicans and fuck whites. It's all about the black people, but you're living in the white area, homeboy, because you don't got no repercussions for that kind of shit. So you're sitting
real
there,
shit.
you're
Most
sitting there,
definitely.
you're sitting here saying shit like
Video
that, just like this.
of this brother American Cholo saying a particular word, coon, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, right.
Now he said it was out of context, et cetera, et cetera. So then they pulled up, and he kind of gave more background, and he actually told us that video was actually a response to something Tariq said to him. And you said something like Mexicoon or some, right?
We weren't talking about him. We're just talking about some stuff in general, and we're
in
kind of
general.
roasting. The bottom line is, dude, when you get caught being an anti-black racist, which he is, let's just be very clear, he is an anti-black racist. He has several videos where he's denigrating black society. He's talking greasy about black people. And fortunately, many people in the Latino community, they called him out for it. So he didn't like getting called out, so he threw up a bunch of smoke screens and all of this stuff. The bottom line, he got called out for his anti-black racism. And unfortunately, in that culture, there is a strain of anti-black racism within these countries down there that they bring here that needs to be addressed. Because if we're going to talk about black and brown unity, the fighting for that cannot be one-sided. It's us, foundational black Americans, usually towing the line for this black and brown narrative. It's always foundational black American organizations towing that line. None of their organizations talk about black and brown. Whenever they get something tangible for them, it's for them. We're never included. So we got to get some straightening as far as that. If we want to have a black and brown unity, it has to be a reciprocal thing, because foundational black American organizations, we've always been fighting for the Hispanic community and all marginalized people, because we don't like marginalization. We don't like any type of discrimination, any type of bigotry with nobody. We've been at the forefront fighting for that. If you look at the NAACP, they're always fighting for Hispanic issues. Even now, the Congressional Black Caucus, fighting for Hispanic issues. Hell, the damn United Negro College Fund, they got scholarships for Latinos, you see? So it's always been this one-sided thing. So instead of them bringing that racism that they practice on the black people and the black Afro-Mexicans and the Afro-Panamanians and all of the black people there, instead of bringing that racism here, learn how to get that out of the way so that we can have an equitable relationship.
Yeah. Now, I do want to touch on this. So I believe a protest was done. Now, the protest came because I think American Cholo went on Power 106.
Right, right.
To, I guess, like confront Tiger about the Ikarama video. Now, we kind of like glossed over the Ikarama video in the last interview, but can you just give one, like when you watch that video, do you think, I guess, they have a right to be offended by the Ikarama video? And then speak on exactly like why that protest happened.
Right. Now with the Ikaramba video, only a few people kind of make noise about it, and the American Cholo dude made noise about it, because that was kind of a way for him to kind of throw a smoke screen up to disguise his own anti-black racism. I don't think Tiger was being malicious, but Tiger was a man about it. He said, hey, if I offended somebody, my bad, I'll take the video down. That's commendable. But don't have an anti-black racist up here talking about we shouldn't get reparations as black people and they shouldn't have a black national anthem playing at games. This guy's racism is way more vicious than that video where Tiger was just kind of lollygagging around. So that was the thing. People were looking at Power 106. How are you going to call somebody racist with another racist that you're sitting here holding hands with? So that's why Power 106 got called out. One of our sisters out here organized, Connie Collins, shout out to Connie Collins, she organized the protest and made the voices known.
Yeah.
And that's what it was.
Yeah. Now, so the Power 106 protest like that, like kind of, that was that, right? So like,
Right.
is there something particular, like, again, it was her protest, not yours.
It wasn't mine.
Yeah.
But I supported her. I
Mhm.
supported her, but it just wasn't mine. So they had other things going on.
Mhm.
I think they had other issues with the hiring at the station because hip hop culture is foundational Black American culture. Let's be clear. We created hip hop, every single element of it exclusively. And when we look at the commercialization of hip hop now, especially in radio and other mediums, it's usually non-Black people running everything. And Black people get shut out of something that we created. So I think part of the conversation was like, okay, how are you going to have a hip hop station and ain't no Black people working up here, like Nick Cannon, and they got rid of Big Boy. Shout out to Big Boy, that was my brother, my brother. And so that was one of the complaints. We have all of these hip hop radio stations and all of this stuff all around the country, and they never have really a lot of Black people, particularly foundational Black Americans working there.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to take back our culture and lay claim to our culture.
Yo, we would definitely have the hip hop discussion a little bit later.
Okay.
Right?
okay.
Because I seen some cooning go, well, not even cooning, but because like they weren't really black, like Fat Joe and Busta Rhymes having, you know, right?
yeah.
But I do want to bring it back though, because I think the discussion about the word coon
Mhm.
and why it was, I guess, derogative or wrong, that took place. But a lot of us, we really wasn't educated enough to really break it down and dissect it.
Right.
So could you do it for the people?
Now, when a Black person says the word coon, but just like the N-word, there's different meanings to it. When a Black person says nigga, that means I'm a victim of white supremacy. When a non-Black person says that word, that means, okay, those Black people are inferior to me. So when different people use different words, it means something else. When a Black person uses the word coon, we're talking about another Black person or another non-white person who's working with white supremacy against non-white people, okay? That's what a coon is. I had a Coon Train Award show some years ago. We're giving awards to people like Jesse Lee Peterson.
I love that show.
Yeah,
by the way.
Sheriff Clark, and we got to have another one sometime next year. So we're talking about an action when we say the word coon. Now, when a non-Black person says the word coon, like Cholo and others, they're talking about all Black people. They don't make no differentiation of it. He tried to clean it up talking about, well, I'm talking about you're a coon because you don't live in the ghetto. That's racist as hell. And that don't make no sense. Not living in the ghetto doesn't make you a coon. That word coon is reserved for all Black people. You're denigrating all Black people. And dude got called out for it, and anybody who's non-Black using that word towards a Black person should get called out for that racist nonsense. See, there's a lot of racism coming from non-white society or non-Anglo, because a lot of people are people of color, but they're still classified as white. You understand? Many East Indians, Black as you and me, but if you look at their ID, it's Caucasian. They're classified as white. Kamala Harris's mother is classified as Caucasian. If you look at the birth certificate, look at the birth certificate. It's online.
Yeah.
You have a lot of Hispanic people. I mean, most Hispanics are classified as white. They classify themselves as white. A lot of times they won't be honest about that. But when you look at the paperwork, they classify themselves as white. Puerto Rico, that's a Black island for the most part. About 80% of the people classify themselves as white on Puerto Rico, in the island of Puerto Rico.
Wow.
So you have a lot of people who are people of color, but inside here, they're white. They're just a different shade of white.
Mhm.
So they use these white supremacist terms to denigrate us, and we're calling them out for it.
Yeah. Now, I do want to kind of address that though, right? Now, now during your last interview, like you had this statement that went super viral. I seen a lot of like the Hispanic community were like quote tweeting it, and kind of addressing you when you say there's no such thing as brown people. What do you mean by that?
Because they don't classify themselves as brown.
Gotcha.
What's a brown person? We're the only people running around talking about Black and brown, for real, especially in a political sense. again, when you look at their ID, they classify themselves as white. Let me tell you something. In the 1930s, there was the U.S. government started classifying Mexican people as their own race. They made Mexican its own race. One of the biggest Mexican American organizations, LULAC, they fought against that. They fought for the right to be labeled as white. They were like, no, 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 do not make us a separate race. We are white and we want to fight to be white. They fought for the right to be white. So don't get offended now. Your organizations wanted to be white and nobody had a problem with it. So own that. Don't play this 3-card Monte game. When you come around us, it's a person of color, but in your mind, you still clicked up with the white supremacists. A lot of that stuff happens in prisons. A lot of the Hispanic gangs in prison, they're clicked up with the Aryans and the white supremacists and the skinheads. That's very well known. Let's bring that to the table and talk facts if we're going to have a real black and brown coalition, because we can't have all of this shady stuff going on behind the damn door and then we're skinning and grinning in each other's face. If you're kicking it with white supremacists, let me know so I can just rock with you a little bit different. You feel me?
No, so even from like that interview too, right? So after the whole American Cholo thing took place, I believe like a week later, I think it's either American Cholo or a few other like Hispanic folks like started to like recirculate some clips of Tariq from Clubhouse, right? Where
no, from Twitter Space.
Oh, Twitter Space, where you were going back and forth with a Hispanic person,
and the person wasn't Hispanic. I know the clip you're talking about. That person wasn't Hispanic.
Gotcha.
It was some East African dude who called up trying to troll, and I trolled him back. Yeah. The Twitter Spaces, those are roast spaces. We reserve that to roast each other and clown each other. They call up and clown me, I clown them back. That's different from somebody sitting up here with a serious straight face talking about we gonna protest black people getting reparations. That's something else. Me ranking on somebody and they're ranking on me, that's just us joshing each other, which is nothing, that's fine. We do that to each other. In the realm of comedy and roasting, everything is fair. Just like George Lopez, he goes on tour with black people and he does black jokes and some people get like, oh, what was that? But we charge it to the game because that's comedy, these are jokes. When you're doing that, Carlos Mencia, remember he had a show where he was kind of going in on black folks and people like, but hey, it's comedy, you can get away with that. So on the Twitter Spaces, we're just roasting each other. That's totally different. When we're having a serious conversation about different groups getting certain beneficial things and tangible things, that's something I don't really joke around with. That's a whole different conversation. I've never said anything to harm Hispanic people or to take away from anything that they're getting at all, like Cholo did. Cholo is trying to get resources away from us. That's something totally different. He's trying to get hate crimes against black folks and stuff like that. We don't do that type of stuff. So they're trying to make a false equivalency and smokescreen to throw up to cover the fact that they have been practicing this vile anti-black racism, and they have fortunately got called out for it.
Now, I think I saw the clip you're referring to regarding reparations. So they had two arguments, and the first argument was other people deserve it first. I think they named like Native Americans and Hispanics.
The hell? Yeah.
Now, and then second, like when we say, like when FBA say, yo, that ain't your business, they say, I'm a taxpayer, it is my business. So what's your response to both of those comments?
Well, number one, the Native Americans did get reparations, and they do get reparations. They get all types of money now, so they've already been paid. Also, in some of those treaties, like the Treaty of 1866, some of those Native American tribes owe us reparations. This is in the treaties because we were enslaved by many of those tribes. Some of those tribes were working with the Confederacy, enslaving us. So Native Americans, anytime somebody says a Native American needs to get reparations, no, Native Americans, they haven't paid their bill to us. Some of the red ones, because also, let's be clear, many of the Aboriginal people here were black people. All of us did not come directly from Africa. Only a small percentage of black people actually came from Africa here to North America. Many of the black people who were brought from Africa mostly went to the Caribbean, South America, Central America. Only about 3 to 6% came here. There were already black Aboriginal people here in the Americas who mixed in with the African people and got reclassified as Negro, and those became the foundation of black Americans. So we built the country from scratch we created the primary wealth of this country, so we are supposed to get first dibs at reparations, nobody else. Reparations is a black thing that foundational black Americans are supposed to receive.
Yeah. Now there was also like one comment and that was made where it became like a real talking point because again, like a lot of us are not equipped to really combat
Right,
this.
right, right.
And one of those like points where the blacks sought refuge, black slaves sought refuge in Latin countries. Now, one, is that true?
Very few did that. Very few. Not too many black people went into those Latin countries because how are you going to get there? You got to get on a boat and you run. No, most black people who were escaping from the plantations, many of them went into the swamps of America. I'm doing a movie about that now called American Maroon. Foundational black Americans were setting up societies in the Great Dismal Swamp in the Virginia, North Carolina area. They went down to Florida. They had all types of maroon societies down there. They became the Black Seminoles, and they waged war against the United States and basically won part of the war because they won their freedom. When they were pushed out into Oklahoma, some of the red Native Americans were trying to sneak and re-enslave some of the Black Seminoles. So some of them went down into Mexico and became what we know now as the Muskogos down there. But the deal they had was to protect the border. Mexico needed some people to protect the border. The Black Seminoles were already whooping ass in Florida. So it was a reciprocal, equal relationship. It wasn't these poor, downtrodden black people going down into Mexico being saved. They were fighting off the hostile Comanche Indians, so they were helping the Mexican government out as much as the government was helping them. So we got to tell all of the history.
Man, now one of the things that were being used to kind of, I guess, discredit you and prove that Tariq is a quote-unquote racist was, again, a lot of people were, I guess, quoting you, but nobody could really provide any type of video or like audio, and that was, they were saying that Tariq is supporting, I guess, hate crime against like the vendors. And
that's a damn lie.
Yeah.
That's just a damn lie.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So like they said, like once, I guess, like once the hate crimes happened against the vendor and you came on and asked, but like, what about this?
Okay, those are people trolling. Okay,
Gotcha.
That's just troll shit.
Gotcha.
And the arguments are in bad faith.
Yeah.
So we got to stay away from that.
Yeah, of course.
We got to understand when somebody's just in the comments saying some stupid shit.
Oh no, American Cholo said that.
Okay, he's a pathological liar.